Welcome everyone to the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is something I've been, as I record this, it is January 13th, 2020. Sort of the first podcast I've recorded of the new year. I'm a few weeks late doing this, but I wanted to do something about Rise of Skywalker. Everyone's seen it by now, so this is going to be a spoiler-filled podcast. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Like, why are you waiting this long, really? I don't know why. But yeah, the episode 9, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker came out last month, and I love the movie. Like, it was really great. I know, and it's because it's so, depending on who you ask, it's so polarizing nowadays. Everyone's got their own opinions of it, what they would have done better. I'm not here to write fan fiction about this movie. I'm just here to talk about the movie that we got. Yeah, you could have done something differently, but I was fine with what we had, and I felt the same way about Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. To me, Star Wars is like it's like getting a piece of pizza. Even if it's not that great, it's still pretty good. It's Star Wars, so that's how I feel about it. But I have a few guys here who probably feel about it a similar way I do. Starting with a guy who's been on several podcasts of mine, one of my earliest guests. He's going to be probably the most metal doctor you can find once he gets out of med school. He's also a very talented guitar player. Please welcome Marko Bojkovic.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How was the drive back to Miami?
I saw you watched my Ghost Rider trip for Neil Peart. Thanks for watching that.
You did a little bit of a live stream there, and my first thought was like, dude, watch the road. What are you doing watching, looking at your phone? But
my eyes are on the road the whole time.
All right. Well, I'm talking to you right now, so obviously you got there safe and sound. So that's what I'm worried about. And also joining us tonight is a guy who I've known for the last couple months, and who's actually doing a lot of work with me on the second Vertebreaker EP as a producer and engineer. He's also a very talented guitar player, originally from Yockleton, England. He played guitar for the band called the Hollow Earth Theory for many years before coming stateside and going to Berkeley, where he met his lovely wife. And now he lives in the same town I do, here in Winter Garden, Florida, just outside of Orlando. Please welcome Jonathan Stubbs.
Hey, how's it going, dudes?
Good. It's it's funny. Marko was originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. So it's
man,
you've got an American, Canadian, and a Brit. It's like I almost feel like this is the start of a bar joke.
I know, right?
The three of us walk into a bar, and nothing happens because we're all just Star Wars nerds and talking about Star Wars.
And the Canadian is easy to identify because he says "hey."
Hey.
Yes, he's just very polite constantly.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, so I know, John, I know you've seen this movie like 3 times opening weekend. We were talking about before, which is incredible.
I saw it opening night, and then I saw it the next morning at 9 o'clock, and then I went back to see it on the Sunday. So 3 times in the opening weekend.
Gotcha. Yeah. I went to see it the Sunday that it came out because me and a buddy of mine from work ended up going.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been on the podcast here. It's just, he gets up a lot earlier than I do. So, right now it's like 9:30 so, as we're recording this. But yeah, so I kind of waited till Sunday to see it. So I tried to avoid spoilers as best I could, and I think I did a pretty good job. Marko, where were you when you saw it first? Did you see it opening night? What did you do?
I did not see it opening night. I saw it on December 29th.
Okay. All right. So like right near New Year's. So you waited a little bit. It's a lot of patience. You're busy. Look, you're in med school. You got a lot of stuff going on. You're traveling back and forth to to see your family. So it's totally understandable.
Well, this holiday season I was busier than usual because I had multiple relatives come down.
Well, there you go. Yeah. See, now I was going to ask you, Marko. I was curious to get sort of your opinion on this movie because I know you've been a little bit critical of the last couple Star Wars movies for a couple reasons, like this new trilogy. I didn't know like what your thoughts on it was. I know you had some issues with the last couple movies. Did that affect your opinion going into this one?
I don't think so. Honestly, of all the new ones in the new trilogy, this is the one that I enjoyed the most.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Well,
did
yeah.
find it a little confusing at times, but looking back at it now, I think I actually did enjoy the movie. My dad and my sister, who's now 13, believe it or not, really enjoyed it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I definitely believe it. But yeah, I mean, I had a feeling it would kind of be this way because a lot of people had issues with the Last Jedi Episode 8, and I mean, I really didn't because Star Wars movies are really unique because I almost look at them as just chapters in a larger story, and I kind of had a feeling that that Episode 8 was going to pose a lot of different questions, and I had a feeling that this one was going to sort of resolve a lot of that. And now, I wouldn't say that this left zero questions unanswered. I wouldn't go that far, but I feel like this put a nice bow on the 9 movies that we've had so far, not counting the spin-offs and Rogue One and Solo, which were great, by the way. I loved both of them. John, how did you feel about the movie? You saw it more times than we did.
I went into this one. I loved The Force Awakens. That movie, I think, was obviously it was the first of the Disney movies, well, the first of the newer movies, and I saw it opening night and the same theater, and I was on my own, and I don't know, there was something about that movie that made me really just feel like I was a kid again watching Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back, and I just loved it, like, instantly. I went back to see it the next day. I saw it, I think, like 4 or 5 times in theaters, and then Rogue One hit, and I absolutely loved that as well, maybe not as much, and I was just counting down the days to The Last Jedi, and for me, The Last Jedi was a real disappointment. I really didn't like The Last Jedi. So I went into this movie with pretty low expectations. In fact, I didn't buy a ticket to go and see it until maybe 2 or 3 weeks after they'd gone on sale, which is unusual for me because normally I'm on the computer the second that they drop, and I'm like, I got to get a ticket. I got to be one of the first people to see it because I don't want to have anyone ruin it for me, and I'm super excited for this. And I saw the trailer after everyone had seen it at work, and I was just like, nah, I'm just not feeling it. I was just like, yeah, I'm sure I'll go and see it. And then I decided after a couple of weeks, I was like, nah, that's just silly. I got to go opening night. I got to go see it. So I went to see it, and I tried to avoid the spoilers as much as I could. Of course, the night before, it opens on a Wednesday night in the UK. So I have a lot of UK friends on Facebook that are kind of, putting on, so I had to kind of avoid the internet a little bit. But I went into it with pretty low expectations. And within the first 15 minutes, I was like, man, I am absolutely loving this film. Everything that from the get-go, I was like, I felt so much better about it than I did The Last Jedi, to a point where I'm going to say I like The Last Jedi, but I think this movie makes The Last Jedi a much better movie. Just because... Carry on.
No. I was going to say that. I was going to ask you about that. Do you appreciate I was going to ask if you appreciate The Last Jedi a little bit more now that you understand the context of the story and where they're going with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm like you two. I love Star Wars, and any Star Wars movie. If we're getting more Star Wars, the more the merrier. I'm definitely not want to know, oh, we didn't need these sequel trilogies and we didn't need the prequel trilogies, and give us the original trilogy with the original cut, and it's got to be that or nothing. I'm very much, I remember going to see the prequels when they came out, and I loved the prequels. And, I wasn't even that young. Okay, I was 14 when the first one came out. I think I was 17 when Attack of the Clones came out, And even though that movie took a lot of stick, a lot of people hated that movie and still do. I remember leaving the theater and being like, "Oh, that movie was amazing! I got to go back and see it. It's Star Wars." And
dude, the Battle of Geonosis alone, it's great to watch. I love it.
That was the best part of Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
I really tried to like The Last Jedi. I really tried to like it.
What was it? What was it about it that really bothered it for you? Was it just because they were so unpredictable, or just kind of what happened to Luke?
I think I've been analyzing it for a while. Why I dislike it so much, and I think the fact that the whole sort of space chase. Is that a phrase? Space chase.
It should be.
It is now.
Yeah.
And
that's what it was. It was a chase in space.
And the running out of fuel. It kind of just didn't feel like the story was real. It was just like, okay, okay, so you can track them through hyperspace. Okay, it's a new thing, which I'm fine with. And, they've run out of fuel. Okay, fuel. I've never heard of this in Star Wars, but whatever, I'll go with it. It just seemed like really kind of, I didn't do anything. It was just like, okay, the character arcs felt off. Like it did the characters that we liked from The Force Awakens, I feel like they didn't do anything. It was like, okay, well, what's happening to Rey? Are we going to find anything about Rey? Is she going to develop and it just, I don't know.
Right.
And then the fact that Snoke died, which was at the time, because I was like, okay, Snoke's died. Who are we supposed to be scared of now? Who are the bad guys? Is it, the First Order seems like they're completely broken apart. You've got Kylo Ren, who's on the fence about being, is he going to turn to the light? Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? And that kind of bugged me because it was like, okay, he's not really scary enough to be a Palpatine type figure or a Snoke type figure. And the fact that they killed him off and they didn't really give any explanation to who he was, and they spent too much time with these, like, the side quests with Finn and Rose at Canterbite, which that whole scene just didn't feel like... I mean, I was looking around the theater and I was like, am I being punked? Is this really what's going on? And the fact that they, it just seemed really pieced together, to a point where I felt like Rian Johnson had not even read the Force Awakens script. That whole bit in the middle, and it was obviously, obviously a lot of people disliked that bit in the middle, the whole Canterbite bit. But the fact that they got arrested for a parking violation, and then they turn up in this prison cell, and then you got this guy who I liken to a stuttering chimney sweep. It just was like, am I watching Star Wars here? Or am I watching Mary Poppins? This guy was like, he's doing like a little jig or something. I don't know. It was.
How many nuts in my quotes?
I missed the jig part of it, but yeah, he was definitely stuttering a little bit.
Stuttering.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, all that stuff didn't really bother me necessarily. I mean, yeah, were there a few weak points in the movie? Of course, you're going to get that in any movie. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it didn't really bother me because I feel like, okay, I think because it was so unpredictable, that's what I really liked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but, that was just me. But, look, we're not here to talk about that movie. We're here to talk about Rise of Skywalker.
Of course.
And I know originally that, originally this was supposed to be directed by a guy named Colin Trevorrow, who directed the two Jurassic World movies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He originally was hired to direct, and he was going to write a script with a guy named Derek Connolly. It says both of them sort of had the same. They eventually retained the story credit, but by J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, who Chris Terrio did work on Argo, and he also did a lot of the work on the script for Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. So I mean, look, the guy's a talented writer. I didn't really care for Batman vs Superman as much, but that's beside the point. But and I guess in 2017, Trevorrow left the project. I guess he had some issues with Kathleen Kennedy, who's like the main like head of Lucasfilm right now. And so they brought back J.J. Abrams as the director, which I think was a smart choice. It's a lot of people would argue it would have been better had he directed Last Jedi as well, but look, I was glad to have him back for this one. So it was what it was. Yeah, so that was kind of the background of that, and I was surprised that they were able to use as much footage of Carrie Fisher as they were able to.
That was incredible.
So
that was
I.
absolutely incredible.
So I don't know how much of that was like shot like outtakes or stuff from Force Awakens or from Last Jedi, but obviously Last Jedi came out after she had already passed away. So I thought. No, go ahead.
In
Marko.
the movie, spoiler territory. Do you think like they killed her seemingly out of the blue?
It did. It did kind of feel that way a little bit. But they did it in a way where it's like I bought it, even though it was sudden. Like I definitely bought it because that's kind of what ended up killing Luke in The Last Jedi, was that projecting yourself and reaching out in the Force and it being that taxing, I guess. Maybe that's what did it. But yeah, it did kind of feel a little bit out of the blue.
I was scratching my head in confusion over that. I was like, wait, why did Leia die? I don't get it.
Guess it just took all her strength to reach out to Kylo Ren. I don't know, but anyways, get into let's get into the plot for it right now. We sort of open with a montage, basically, of Kylo Ren going to all these different places. I think including Mustafar at one point, just going around, just killing dudes left and right, looking for this Wayfinder to find Exegol. It was this secret planet that had this significance with the Sith.
I believe it is it's like the Sith home. It's like the home world of the Sith.
Gotcha. Now you guys might have to forgive me. I've only seen this thing once, so I'm kind of going from memory. And
so have I.
Reading down the plot points. That's a good thing Jonathan's here then, because he's seen it 3 times opening weekend. But yeah, it was there he finds Palpatine, who was alive, and who we kind of knew was coming back based on what we had seen in the trailers. What did you guys think about Palpatine being alive? Did that bother any of you guys that he survived what happened in Return of the Jedi?
A little bit. It's not logical. Vader threw him down like this big thing, and that was supposed to be like the big thing that killed him and redeemed Darth Vader, but now it seems he did all that for nothing. You know what I mean?
It did end the war. I wouldn't say it was for nothing, because he definitely had to go into hiding. He was definitely beaten.
Yeah, but Vader was prophesized to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. If Palpatine managed to survive that, then he didn't fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Vader did a lot of things that he wasn't prophesized to do.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
He did kind of create a lot of problems as well.
Yeah, one of them involving kids.
Yeah,
I don't know if I could say that.
Yeah, no, it's, well, you can say it because it did happen. But, it didn't really bother me too much, because it's like, in a universe where you could have, Leia get blown outside into space and then float her way back in, with that many, with that level of force powers, like, didn't really bother me. Like, why not? He's a resilient guy. I could totally see it.
I actually thought that the Palpatine, bringing him back, for me, it kind of sounds weird, but in Revenge of the Sith, obviously there's that line when he's talking to Anakin, he's sitting in the and he's talking about cheating death. And obviously, we're made to believe that Plagueis, man, I can't talk tonight, I'm tired, sorry. Plagueis, thanks, dude. Plagueis, I can't talk tonight, I'm running on fumes. So Plagueis was obviously his mentor, he was the...
he was his master.
Exactly, yeah. And he was his apprentice. So... being that the Revenge of the Sith came out, obviously, many years after Return of the Jedi, that, to me at the time, almost felt like, oh, it's a cliffhanger. I wonder if he survived. But, of course, we're never going to know, because Lucas is never going to make any more films.
Right.
So the fact that he
Adios,
came
George.
back, I mean, I love Palpatine. He is like my favorite Star Wars character, just because he's so completely unnecessarily evil to a point where I'm not quite sure what his motive is anymore. Because he's just like, what are you doing here? You literally
Like,
just
what do you want?
You just float. What do you want to just float around in space, looking out of a window anyway? And it's like he just wants to, he's orchestrated all this, every single, part of the, this trilogy, this whole saga of movies at this point, and it just felt that this was, it wasn't unbelievable that he was brought back. It was I felt it was the correct thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they're able to bring back Darth Maul in the Clone Wars
Well,
and all the, like, the series and stuff,
I was more surprised about seeing Darth Maul come back than I would have been about Palpatine coming back if it happened at the same time. Because Palpatine fell down a hole, but he was at least in one piece.
Yeah, like Darth Maul got straight up cut in half. Like, that's crazy. And he found a way. So, like, yeah, why not?
Well, Darth Maul fell down too. That's probably what killed him, not getting cut in half.
Yeah. There was it was definitely a combination of the two. So, like, if he can walk away from both those things, then I'm sure Palpatine can find a way, which he did. And that was even a thing. I'm not even going to get into like the original comics that were out there because he had like clone bodies and all the extended universe and whatnot. But yeah, it was interesting how they had they had like a whole secret fleet of Star Destroyers from the Empire days, and that they kept them underwater. Like when they all rose up out of the water, I thought that was really cool. And I mean, it kind of made sense to me. It's like, look, I'm always curious, like, if you're gonna have ships that can go into space, like, yeah, why would they not survive underwater?
I guess they had been plotting this since. I'm gonna check my book real quick, guys. I got the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary, but it says something about this, as they were literally like, again, Sith sympathizers that had formed from all over the galaxy to basically construct this fleet of ships, which I can't find right now, but I remember it saying that basic Star Wars design, which I actually really like the idea of, because that to me was like, oh, okay, the First Order, they're kind of, whatever, they're not that really threatening, and now you've got the good old Imperials coming back with like, a real, a proper fleet of Star Destroyers, and I really like that. And the whole idea of that Exegol planet, I could watch a whole movie just about that.
I mean that'll make sense. I mean, look, the First Order, they used a lot of like the original like Empire like themes and motifs and whatnot, so it makes sense that there would be like more people out there who wanted to bring it back, and
it says here
building all these spaceships in secret.
Secreted and underground launch base beneath the surface of Exegol is the final stage of the First Order's long, ghastly plan of conquest. The loyalists who have been toiling in secret to bring the return of their glorious empire and to resurrect the Sith Order include engineers, shipwrights, and enslaved labor. Their efforts have created hundreds of warships and thousands of starfighters ready to launch, while the Sith monolith is the site of Macabre rituals. Macabre. There you go.
Yeah.
Rituals that plumb the secrets of the Force. The neighboring stages' grounds represent pure military might, grounded in the imperial legacy of rule through technological superiority.
Well, there you go. That's right from the visual guide right there. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. Like, they would have to have people to fly these ships and to operate it. So, yeah, sure. Like, I buy all that. One thing I wasn't sure about, like, there was in Palpatine's like throne room or wherever he was. It seemed like there were a lot of like people in the crowd. I couldn't tell if they were just like ghosts of old Sith lords or. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it seemed like,
I don't know. I feel like they were. I mean, I don't think they were.
some
I
clones?
don't. I think that at the best they were maybe these Sith loyalists.
Yeah.
Or probably, I don't know. It seemed like they kind of exploded when the planet kind of. Did they?
Right,
Was it
maybe
just?
they were like ghosts or something. I don't know.
I mean, they shouldn't be Siths because there should only really be two Siths at any one time.
Right.
But yeah, it seemed like they kind of spontaneously combusted into this, like, it almost looked like stone or something.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't quite figure out what was going on there, but we also see we cut to later we see that Rey is sort of continuing her Jedi training with Leia, which I thought was kind of cool. Like I remember as a kid watching Return of the Jedi like with my sister, and we would like talk, be like, man, you think Leia's going to be a Jedi eventually? Like I don't know. I mean, and we never really got to see that obviously, but like. There was even a cutaway later in this movie that showed like young Luke and Leia training, and like Luke was training her to be a Jedi, but she gave it up when she figured out that she was going to have a kid, and that that all paid off later, of course. But I thought that was just a really cool thing how like Leia became sort of Rey's new master.
Can we discuss the EU a little bit? The expanded universe. Can we discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess. Why?
Bring up one thing on it.
There?
Yeah, I thought Leia did become a Jedi in the expanded universe.
Yeah, I think she did.
In the books?
Yeah.
I think she did.
Yeah.
I think that was Carrie Fisher's daughter, according to the internet, that was playing Leia in that scene, young Leia.
Oh, you really think that was Billie Lourd? Because I know that she had a role in The Last Jedi as well, and I think she did have a role in this one.
I think I read somewhere or saw on Facebook or that was.
You mean in the scene where it's like there was the flashback where it was supposed to be young Luke and Leia, and she was just doing the motion capture for it?
Yeah, I thought it was CGI, but it said somewhere online that was like Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Well, I mean, they usually like will do like sort of a mixture of that. They'll have actual actors come in and do that, and they'll just like kind of CGI the face.
Right.
I'm on the Wikipedia page right now, and it says here that she played Lieutenant Kiddo Kokonix. So, but it doesn't say here.
That was the other character
young
she was
Leia.
doing.
Doesn't say anywhere here that she played young Leia, even though we can still listen. Wait a minute. Yeah. It says here she did also play Leia in a flashback.
Well, there you go. Now we know. So they go to this other planet, and this is Rey and Finn and Poe, Chewie and BB-8 and 3PO. Unfortunately, R2 couldn't get in on this. That's kind of a drag.
Yeah,
but, whatever. I love R2, but this. Yeah.
Did you see the droid I built in Disney World?
I did not.
It's on Facebook.
Can we get back to that?
Yeah, it's
Can we get back to that later?
Yeah.
Good to know. I digress. But yeah, on Pisana was the name of this new planet, and they finally ran into Lando, which I was like wondering when we were going to run into this guy. I had assumed that we were going to run into Lando at like the Canto Bight, but that didn't happen. So, but we finally see Billy D. Williams back as Lando Calrissian, which was cool to see him.
I wish they did more with him.
Yeah, I mean, it could have used a little bit more screen time for Lando. That would have been nice, but
he definitely could have traveled with Rey and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, that would have been cool. So they went, they met up with Lando to find this Wayfinder. But it was also funny on this planet. There seemed to be some sort of like party that they were having. It looked like the Burning Man festival or something. I wasn't sure what was going on there. But
oh wait, it
may actually be the Burning Man festival in disguise.
Right, they could have filmed it there. No, what were you going to say, John?
I think it says in the book. Hold on.
But I'm laughing. I'm laughing about stuff like that. It's like, the galaxy is at war right now. Like planets are being destroyed, but they're having a good time. They're just tearing it up right there on in the desert.
Every 2 years, as recorded.
Keep in mind the Ewoks did too.
Were they there too?
No, but in Return of the Jedi, the Ewoks are having all these parties when there was a war going on.
Oh well, yeah. That was after because they thought because they won. So well, plus they didn't really know what was going on. They were like living in trees for God's sake.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, as recorded by Passana, I can't read that. 378. Standard day journey around the sun, the desert planet sprouts colorful new life in the form of a vivid celebration.
Yeah. Well, I thought they had said in the movie that it was every 42 years, which I thought was an interesting number, but then I remembered, Star Wars, A New Hope came out 42 years before this one, in 1977, so that's got to be what that was a reference to.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
It's a little nod to that.
And they didn't take up a lot of screen time. They didn't really have much to do with the story, I don't feel. But it was kind of they didn't bother me, or I didn't love them, and they didn't really bother me.
No, I just thought that was just kind of a funny thing. I was like, man, what are these guys doing partying right now? There's a war going on. But
we're going to war. Let's have one more party.
Yeah, why
that
not?
Was their
mindset. Let's do this weird choreographed dance that doesn't look very fun at all. But yeah, and this whole time they're going through, Rey can still speak to Kylo Ren through that technique we saw in The Last Jedi. So it's like they can almost like sort of astral project, but almost like hand solid objects to one another, which I thought was a really interesting idea. That thing that the Force can do that I didn't know it could do, but yeah, why not?
That confused me, actually.
Yeah, that was probably, I didn't mind it so much because it kind of that thing had already been kind of laid out in The Last Jedi, and I felt like I didn't like it in The Last Jedi because it was like changing the lore, but then it's like, well, they've already changed it, they might as well just kind of go with that.
It's like, yeah, they never said they couldn't do that, I mean, I don't know. It's the Force. The Force can be a lot of things. You know what I mean?
The Force could even be real.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't. By the way, Marko, I wouldn't recommend suggesting that in medical school. They'll just like get out of here.
I know.
Yeah, there was this whole sequence where they find the dagger, and it had the Sith language on there, but 3PO couldn't read it for some reason. Which I thought was really interesting. 3PO had a lot to do in this movie.
Yeah, he really
had a lot of screen time.
Really did have. He was quite an important character.
For sure. Hats off to Anthony Daniels too. He was like really conveying a lot of emotion, through his performance. I thought. There was a sequence there where Chewie got captured and he was in the ship that blew up, and I remember watching that and I was thinking, like, man. Because I know it's the last movie, I know they theoretically could kill Chewie, but it's like I doubt that Chewie's going to go out like that. Like, Chewie deserves a much better death than that if that's the way they're going with it.
I did love that scene though when they kind of when Rey starts pulling back the ship.
Yes.
That because we've only seen that in extended universe stuff. Do you remember the Force Unleashed on the PlayStation 3?
Yeah, I saw commercials for that video game.
I only played like the first level of it. I wasn't a big fan of that game.
No?
There is a bit in that game though where you can kind of pull a Star Destroyer using the Force kind of towards yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's rad.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was I liked that. That was cool. That was cool the way she just used the Force to kind of pull the ship back, which was I liked that. That was a good scene. Then Kylo jumps out, and then he's pulling it the other way, and then it kind of crashes, right?
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
that was really cool. Yeah, I didn't remember what the name of that game was, but I did remember seeing like a trailer for that, and just like and whatever the character's name was.
I think it was Star Killer.
Star Killer.
Yeah, something Star Killer, but he had like all these crazy Force powers, like stuff that we had never seen in the movies, and it was just really, really cool to see.
Having a movie about him would be cool.
Yeah, whoever that dude was. So
we got that Chewie was about to die, or everyone thinks Chewie's dead because they blew the ship up.
Everyone thinks Chewie's dead. I'm seeing something here. Destroyed a First Order ship using Force lightning.
She uses the Force lightning. She's like pulling it, and then he's pulling it, and then she uses Force lightning, and it's kind of like that's the first time she's used it. And I think that is going on in the movie, kind of one of the things that's kind of leading her towards the dark side, and she's kind of scared that that's going to kind of, just kind of, I don't know. I guess she has a fear of turning to the dark side because she's tempted by it.
That's true. And they had kind of hinted at that in the last movie, and it's a nice little bit of foreshadowing as well.
I think, was that the only time in any of the movies that we've seen anyone other than Palpatine use Force lightning?
Well, I see. I don't know, because in Revenge of the Sith, he fought Yoda for a little bit.
And I think, does Yoda just reflect it, though?
That's the thing I wasn't sure. I didn't know if Yoda just, like, redirected it back towards him or what.
I think so, because I saw that one before it.
Yeah, Yoda didn't, like, actually generate it himself, I guess.
No.
So, yeah, I guess
Dooku also used Force lightning.
Yeah, but I think this would be the first time, like, one of the good guys actually used it. You know what I mean?
Oh.
So Count Dooku used it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one for a year or two. That would have been in the Clones, right?
It was in Attack of the Clones.
Okay. Vader never used it.
No.
Maul never used it.
He couldn't.
Yeah, Vader didn't have hands, really, at that point.
Electricity and, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess she would have been, like, the first, like, good guy to use that power. So that's
right.
That's a good point. Then they travel to this other planet, Kijimi, to give 3PO like the mind wipe, so he's able to read it. Which I'm kind of curious how he got that bit of programming in it, because we all know that Anakin was the first person who built him, but 3PO has also been around for a lot of years. He might have had something installed in his memory. Like, we don't know exactly what the deal with that was.
Wasn't his memory erased after Revenge of the Sith?
It was.
Before this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, which is like why he didn't remember anything about Tatooine and the other movies that came after that.
Yeah, so this is nothing new to him.
For sure. Yeah, no, we've been through that way with him, and thank God R2 was there with the old Apple iPhone backup to just like kind of reboot his memory there.
Yeah, that's true.
Install the backup thing in there. R2 always comes through. He's the best.
Yeah.
He really is.
And my wife, who doesn't even like Star Wars, she loves R2-D2 though. That's her favorite character in all of these.
I see why.
Of course.
R2's irresistible.
Yeah, and he's super cute too. So of course she loves that. But so they travel to Kijimi, and they have this whole side plot with this character Zori Bliss, who's like an old girlfriend of Poe's. We're led to believe there's like some sort of relationship there. Unfortunately, I felt like her part was a little bit underwritten, and I realized that they needed like people to help them out, and I'm surprised that they wrote in her character and didn't use like someone like Rose from the previous movie. You know what I mean?
I do.
But like, and I
don't know. I thought she was pretty good. I don't know. I felt like the sub characters in this were written just enough, but it didn't take. I felt that the whole movie was, in a sense, racing against the clock in the fact that we had to cram so much into this.
It did.
So the fact that so they could have maybe explored her character a little bit more, but I feel like that would have taken away the screen time from the main objective. Mm-hmm. So I didn't mind her. I thought she served the purpose. The same with the character at the end, which I forget her name.
The former Stormtrooper girl.
Yeah. Now apparently, I don't know if this is the right time to mention this, but there is word that there might be a director's cut edition of this movie, which has about an extra hour or so of movie, which I wouldn't be surprised if there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there is one. Whether Disney will release it, because that would be a first for Star Wars.
They've never done put out director's cuts like that. or at least if you don't count like the special edition, you know.
Yeah,
Right. But the other guy who wrote this
kind of director's cuts or no? I don't think so.
No, just like added stuff after the fact. But Chris, I forget this guy's name every time, but the other guy who wrote it with J.J. Abrams. Yeah, you know, he had a director's cut of course, Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Which of course came out, which had like an extra 45 minutes that made it an R-rated. And Argo actually had an extended edition which had an extra 20 minutes or so.
Oh, there you go.
So whether this will get a 20-minute, will get a director's cut release. I heard that there was talk that they wanted, you know, they were literally given a frame of time. They were given 2 hours, 20 minutes. And the reason that was because Disney didn't want this to be a 3.5-hour movie because then they're limited to how many times they can show it in a day at a movie theater. So whether we will get a extended edition of this film, I don't know, but I felt like I would have definitely sat through another hour of this movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I would definitely see that.
I would too.
Yeah. I actually, and again, this is all the internet, so I don't know how much truth is in this, but I heard that Abrams and Chris, whatever his name is, they sat down with Disney and they discussed it for about an afternoon, and they were basically then decided not to do it, but they were thinking of doing this movie in 2 parts. Yeah. And then they discovered that it wasn't going to happen, so they just kind of went with what they kind of could, and he was quite upset that there was so much more that they were going to put in this movie that they just didn't have time for. So whether that was, and I forget her name, the character Poe's love interest from this planet.
So Zori Bliss.
Yeah, if she was a bit more developed. I know that the other girl, the stormtrooper, allegedly in one of the scenes that they took out is supposed to be Lando's daughter, and that kind of makes sense at the end when he's chatting to her. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It kind of makes more sense that it's like, you know, okay, it's supposed to be Lando's daughter.
That's the thing, though. Every time Billy D. Williams talks, it sounds like he's hitting on somebody.
He does, and he's still got it, even at his age.
Why don't we go find out?
I love that about him.
He's still got it.
Maybe we'll drink a little Colt 45.
Man, his laugh as well, like when he puts that laugh in, you know, when they're coming in at the end. Anyway, we'll get to that bit later. Carry on, Jake.
No, of course. All that stuff about a director's cut is really interesting. Getting back to this character, though, Zori Bliss, like, we never see her face. So I didn't even realize until after I saw the movie that was Kerry Russell who played her. Kerry Russell, she was on that show Felicity for years, and she's on another show called The Americans and a couple other things. Yeah, she.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, where they're supposed to be like Soviet spies or whatever, but Yeah. She's done a lot of things, but yeah, I didn't know that's who that was. So as they go on, finally, Kylo ends up telling Rey that she is Palpatine's granddaughter, which I think was a good move that they had that kind of reveal, because they had kind of, you know, he had told her in the previous movie that you come from nothing, your parents are nobody, and I remember seeing that and thinking like, I don't really buy that, like especially with the way her character was built up to be this like super competent, and that was like one of the criticisms of Rey for a long time, that you know, this girl shows up out of nowhere all of a sudden she's like great at fixing things, is an expert pilot, and is also like a super powerful Jedi. And I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, like I don't really buy that she comes from nothing. I had kind of a feeling that was sort of a red herring. And I'm sure that was the plan the whole time, to make this reveal that she was related to somebody. I thought she might have been related to either Luke or Obi-Wan, but she ended up being Palpatine's granddaughter, which makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, she would want to try to, you know, escape, you know, sort of that family bloodline. So I remember hearing like reviews of like people who would come and say like, look, you know, I come from sort of a bad family situation, so I really that reveal really resonated with me. Like, you know, people would come out and say that, and I thought like, wow, that's really cool.
That is cool. Yeah,
that is relatable.
Yeah, really like that move of her being Palpatine's granddaughter, because if she had been, because everyone after The Force Awakens was, of course, it's obviously, she's Kylo's sister, or she's Luke's daughter, and the fact that she was a Palpatine kind of, obviously, it explains why she's so powerful.
Yeah.
And so good with the Force so quickly. It explains the whole fact that she goes and jumps into that dark side sort of cavern or whatever in The Last Jedi, that is. When they're training, or Luke's training her on the island, and she dives.
And he sensed all that dark energy in her.
Right. And it kind of, for me, I mean, it's not unlikely that, it seemed like Palpatine as, Senator Palpatine throughout the prequel movie. Mm-hmm. It seemed like he'd had this sort of facade of being like a well-respected, politician for probably many years before, he decided to start unveiling his plan. I mean, he's playing the real long game, Palpatine is.
It's definitely the long game.
You're playing the whole Star Wars saga.
Yeah.
This guy's been at it for, 60 years now?
It's like, dude, you've wasted your entire life on this. Look how old you are. It's just going, what are you doing this for?
That brings you up to, your point earlier.
Because I feel like it.
Right, because I want to. Because I don't know what else to do. I'm bored. It's like, to what end?
But
Also, who would have sex with Palpatine? Obviously,
I feel like it was probably
I don't even know if I want to know that. The answer to that question, Marco. I mean, but it's But
I was gonna say a female version of Jabba the Hutt.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, Rey's not bad looking, so she.
Right, so that doesn't track at all.
I'm thinking that he probably was married to somebody and had a kid.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, a lot happened. We didn't really know anything about his family life and all that.
No, and I mean that might have not been something that he was doing particularly because he wanted to, but maybe just because it was part of his front.
Right.
As a politician.
So Rey's father, we're led to believe, is the son of Palpatine. And he obviously didn't go with what Palpatine was all about. He ended up being a good person and wanted to hide his daughter from all that.
And that I felt could have done with a little bit more explanation, because did he have the Force? Did it skip a generation?
That's a
Why
good
was
question.
he so weak? Yeah, so I felt like that could do with some explanation, but I mean, there's no reason why that won't be in some sort of comic or some sort of TV series or something, or they'll explain that at some point.
Yeah,
I could draw out a Punnett square and try to solve this.
A what?
A Punnett square, that thing you used to look at genes.
Oh,
I like
wow.
being passed down for generations.
I mean, I'm sure someone somewhere has already done that.
I mean, it might have.
Knowing how nerdy this fan base is, I guarantee you someone has that.
I mean, if it skipped a generation, I mean, that would kind of make sense. I mean, we don't really see so much. I mean, I don't know. I'm.
Who knows? I mean, look, I wouldn't mind if they made movies about what happened in between episodes 6 and 7. That's like a period of 30 years? A lot could have happened.
Yeah, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of story to tell in between that time. So whether it becomes a series, whether they do spin-off movies, it would have been cool to they could bring back what's his face, Alden Ehrenreich, to play Han Solo again. Who knows? That would be awesome.
I feel. You guys been watching The Mandalorian? Or you guys finished The Mandalorian?
Oh yeah. It's great.
I love The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's excellent. So I'm wondering if we'll start to see more stuff, maybe saga related, popping up in that, depending on how many seasons they have of it.
You never know.
Because that, of course, would be between episodes 6 and 7.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, there's. Like I said, this movie didn't answer every single question out there, but it definitely did enough where I was very satisfied with it.
Maybe Mandalorian can answer the remaining questions.
I mean, maybe. You never know. So when they went to find the remains of the second Death Star, I was a little confused. At first, I thought if they were on Endor,
I was confused at that too.
maybe just like a different part of it that wasn't forest covered, but but had like
I think it was a different planet. I think it was a different Endor moon.
Yeah, because it says it arrives on Keth Bir. I think that's the name of this place. It might have been
It is a moon of Endor.
Another moon in the Endor system or whatever.
Right, yeah, that's what it was. It was a different moon in the Endor system.
Which, yeah.
So now it does make sense for the second Death Star's remains to be there.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And it which is, I know you guys haven't seen,
Right.
but it actually gives you a small diagram of which part of the Death Star actually crashed in.
Yeah, it almost looked like it was the old throne room.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the old throne room and part of the, what is it called? The super laser lip. That's the technical name.
Yeah, the laser
super
lip.
laser lip.
Yeah. That'd be a great name for a band, by the way. Super Laser Lip.
Super laser lip. I just loved that whole part of the movie as well.
Yeah, and that was a big chunk of the Death Star that was there.
It was, yeah, and I love seeing the Imperial helmets or the Imperial bodies just kind of there. And I didn't see it on the first viewing because I didn't manage to take it all in. But on the second viewing, I noticed that there was one of the Emperor's shuttles, Shuttle Tiberian from Return of the Jedi. The remains. Did you guys catch that? The remains.
How did that get there?
Yeah.
I guess they had a couple of them because I know Luke obviously flew one out at the end in the Jedi, but I believe there were multiple of them.
Yeah.
Because Palpatine, of course, lands in one, and then Vader, of course, takes one to Endor on Return of the Jedi. But I really love that shuttle from
that shuttle was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool seeing that and seeing that whole throne room. It was like a real, I guess, nostalgic about Return of the Jedi, which is probably my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah, it was a good callback. Yeah, I like how again they introduced Leia's lightsaber, which, like I said, was really cool. Just like knowing that she did have a little bit of Jedi experience, and I did think it was like the saddest part of the movie for me was like when Chewie found out that Leia had passed away.
And he starts breaking down.
I felt so bad for him. It's like all his friends have passed away. I mean, he still got Lando, but still,
Well, Lando's probably not a part of his inner circle.
Oh yeah. No, it's he's still some bitterness there, but
he only knows Lando from Han.
Exactly. But still, that was just like, that was just heart wrenching. Who knew that Chewie could make us, evoke such a response from people? Could be that moving.
Yeah, he was. That was an emotional scene.
The lightsaber fight between Rey and Kylo, with the waves crashing around them, that reminded me a lot of like Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just really cool, especially with like the water effects and just.
I felt that was one of the best lightsaber duels we've seen, and that's not to take anything away from
cool duel.
Not to take anything away from the prequels, but the prequels obviously is a lot more fancy than the original trilogy. A lot more fancy, obviously the twirls and whatnot. But there was something about this particular duel where it just seemed that they really wanted to kill each other.
Yes.
And they were really slashing at each other.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool duel. It was a cool scene. I like that.
You know what my dad said it was like?
What was that?
With Rey and Kylo jumping around all over the place trying to beat each other up. It sounds like my favorite video game, Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of that game. That has like all the Nintendo characters, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well,
and I want Star Wars in it.
Well, there you go. That's probably the only people they don't have in Super Smash Brothers. So, I guess that's a good reference for all your Super Smash Brothers fans out there. I apologize, I'm not as familiar as Marko is, but good on you. But
Luke and Vader for Smash.
There you go. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Marko wants it. Let's make it happen. But
It's never going to happen. It's only for gaming characters, not movie characters. But anyways, back discussion.
Yeah, but but yeah, no, and Rey ends up like running Kylo through. Like she stabs him, she kills him, and is all her like force powers to bring her son back.
Well, that's
or no, no, was it Rey? No, it was Rey who healed Kylo, and then it was Leia who reached out to him.
Yeah. Leia reaches out to Kylo, and he's about to kill her. And he just drops his lightsaber.
Yeah, she like distracts him, and then Rey moves in for the kill.
Yeah. So he's obviously Leia's reaching out to him. He drops his lightsaber. Rey's already lost her lightsaber. Mm-hmm. It's already somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then she, of course, grabs or catches his lightsaber, and then basically stabs him.
Gotcha. But and then she uses like the force healing stuff, which is another like new power, but it was really cool, I thought.
Yeah, I feel that's been used again in the extended universe a lot, the force healing. So it didn't seem like it was particularly out of place.
Right, but I think it was probably the first time we've seen it in one of the movies. Correct?
In one of the movies, yeah.
I didn't see it in any of the movies.
No.
Yeah.
But in the extended universe, like obviously that's and the video games and whatnot, I feel like that's been hinted upon. And it really, again, that was kind of, it didn't bother me. I mean, at this point, we're kind of feeling like maybe Kylo Ren and Rey are kind of the superpower in the Force, and they're a lot more, their abilities a lot more than, Luke and Anakin and Obi-Wan. So it didn't really bother me.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool. And then we saw like this, Kylo sees this vision of Han Solo, which was really cool. Like I wasn't expecting Harrison Ford to come back for one of these.
They didn't credit Harrison Ford at the end credits.
No, I think it was just sort of like an uncredited cameo. But
why wouldn't they credit him? He's a big part of Star Wars.
Well, I mean, it was just such a bit part in there. But
I wonder if they did that because they didn't want it to be on like International Movie Database.
Oh yeah, it would have gotten out everywhere.
Oh, that makes sense then.
Yeah. So but it was cool to see him back. Like honestly, I always got the impression that like Harrison Ford just kind of came back so they could kill off Han Solo and he could be done with it. Like he doesn't seem like he's all that into Star Wars really. But I mean, he has been at some of like the celebration events and stuff like that. So I feel like he does embrace it a little bit. I'd like to think that he does, but he was.
Yeah, I think so.
But it was cool to see him back, and just a really nice surprise. And
I feel like maybe he did it. I mean, maybe just. I mean, I'm speculating here. I'm not sure. Maybe he just to show a little bit of kind of. I won't say respect, but a little bit of
respect for Carrie.
To Carrie, and also, and I always forget his name, the guy who played Chewbacca who passed away.
Peter Mayhew.
But yeah, just maybe as a little bit, towards that, and it was really nice. It was a nice scene, and it was quite an emotional scene.
It is really a shame that we never got to see like him and Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher all together.
Yeah.
It is a shame we didn't get that, but it just wasn't meant to be. But it was cool, and it was also the first time in a movie we've seen someone actually turn to the light side. We've never seen that before. I mean, I guess unless you count. Yeah, no, I guess that's true. Then yeah, I mean, I guess technically Vader towards the end. But like he died immediately after that. At least this time, like he got to live through at least a little bit longer than Anakin did when he came back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Now there was like a lot of stuff online again, so I'm always quoting stuff that I've seen online, but my Facebook feed seems just full of just Star Wars. I remember like lightsaber communities and Death Trooper communities and 501st communities.
Oh, wow.
So there's so many articles about it, and a lot of people were saying that would have been a really good opportunity to bring Hayden Christensen back as Force Ghost Anakin
Oh, that
to
would
kind
have
of
been wild.
talk him out of being, be like, oh yeah, you don't follow down the path I have. It's still time for you to change, or still time for you. Of course, what we got, I really liked. I would have liked both,
Yeah.
because I would have liked to have seen Hayden Christensen just one last time in
That
the
would have
movie.
been cool.
Supposedly, he did shoot for the movie, and he did shoot a scene for the movie, which is, if they ever release it, will be in the director's cut
that
of
would
him
be
being
amazing.
a Force ghost.
He'll just show up like, what are you doing? Seriously. Didn't you see the end of Return of the Jedi? You saw what I did?
Yeah, come on, dude.
Look, I know I did a lot of evil stuff, all right? But I turned it around towards the end. You can still do it, too.
Yeah. Come on,
And then, guys,
still
all the
come
little
on,
kids
guys.
showed his Force Ghost and said, "You killed all of us."
It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm not proud of that. We'll get to that later.
It would be kind of like if, Hitler came back and people would be like, yeah, okay, well, let's just try and forget about all the bad stuff
Yeah.
that he did.
Look, I said I was sorry. What do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? Which would kind of been a bit silly, but I don't know. As a Force ghost, if only she could have seen him. I had a discussion. I'm moving ahead. Carry on, Jack. I was
no,
jumping
it's
ahead.
fine. It's fine. But they finally. I'm glad we finally got to see the Knights of Ren.
Yes.
Like, they didn't have a giant part in this movie, but I know they had been hinted at since The Force Awakens, and it's like, I just want to see the Knights of Ren once in this. And
Supposedly, according again to this visual dictionary book, which it's all canon, obviously, and it's forwarded by the guy, I can't remember his name because I'm an idiot, but what's the guy's name? Chris
Terrio.
Chris, what's his face? Yeah, so it's forwarded by him, and he's put a really nice thing at the beginning of the book, how he was like, when does he return the Jedi? Like, every single weekend for a summer when he was 12 years old or something, and he had a sketchbook which he literally wore out by writing in it and writing Star Wars stories when he was a kid, so this is like a dream come true. And anyway, it says in the book that the Knights of Ren were gifted to Kylo after he completed his Sith trials.
Gotcha.
And the Knights of Ren were supposedly, according to this book, almost like the sort of security keepers of the Exegol planet.
Oh, right on.
So they were like not security, but kind of like, I don't say policing it, but they were kind of like guards. That's the word. Guards.
Like the Imperial, like, royal guards, like the guys in red.
Yeah, exactly. And they were kind of keeping this planet.
Were they Force sensitive at all? I don't remember if they had Force powers.
I believe they do have Force powers, and that's not coming from the movies, but that is coming from the comic book.
Yeah.
The Rise of Kylo Ren, which was released the day this movie came out. So this movie is supposed to be a backstory of the Knights of Ren and Kylo Ren rising up.
I mean, it would have been cool to have more of them in the movie, but I was fine with what we got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if you guys want more, I mean, the comic book, it's on episode 2 right now, and I'm going to be honest, I've never read a comic book before in my life. I'm dyslexic, so I don't do a lot of reading. Wow.
Yeah.
And so I never read one as a kid.
We get it.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to read this comic book. And I couldn't find it anywhere, so I ended up getting it on the Kindle because I couldn't find it at Disney World. I couldn't find it at the local comic book store. Amazon didn't have it. eBay, some guy was selling it for like $100. So I got it on Kindle. And they're very short, and it's kind of starts off, Kylo Ren actually sees the Knights of Ren when he was a kid.
Oh, okay.
And during some sort of battle. And then it skips ahead to the night where Luke tries to kill him, and he thinks he's killed Luke, and he destroys the Jedi Temple. And he's asking, then he goes to see Snoke, and Snoke, he's saying that he wants to become a Knight of Ren.
Yeah, I think it was almost implied that some of those guys might have been like former Jedi students that turned to the dark side too.
That was what it was kind of implying. According to the comic book, though, that's not the case. That's what I think everyone thought it was. And I spoke to a few people, and they kind of thought that, and I did as well, that the Knights of Ren were kind of like Kylo's posse, if you know what I
Right.
mean. You know, like some other students he'd like kind of brought along for the ride, but they were actually a much older collect, if you will, like a group of people which were already an established group of Sith Force sensitive dudes. But I would agree, I would love to have seen a bit more of them in action because they were really badass looking. And if you guys are down at Disney, at the launch bay, they have a couple of the helmets on display from the movie of the Knights of Ren.
I saw them,
and
actually.
they're really cool. Yeah, they're cool, right?
They were cool.
Yeah.
John, have you been there yet?
To
Launch Bay?
have I?
No, Star Wars Launch Bay. Have you?
Yeah, he's been there. He's taken his kid to see to meet Chewie and all this other stuff.
I'm a stay-at-home house parent, so
I
work evenings. I take my boy down there, who's 1.5. I take him down there. I'm not gonna lie. It's a couple of times a week that we go down to the Galaxy's Edge, and we just kind of hang out. And he's obviously too young to go on any of the rides, so we just go down there and we see, we go see Chewie, which he loves, and we go and see BB-8, which he loves, and he likes Vader, and we just walk around and then come home.
John, I can tell, like, you're an amazing dad.
Oh, thank you, Marco. I appreciate that.
You're doing parenting right.
Thank you.
But yeah, once they go to Exegol and just the giant battle that happens there is really cool, and just all these Star Destroyers and it was kind of crazy of a callback when Finn and Poe and all their friends, they were like riding those big like horse things from Canto Bight. It's like a good like callback. It's like there was like they're riding these like horses on a Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
pretty wild.
I mean,
that looks cool.
They were different horses, though, weren't they, to the ones on Canto Bight?
Were they? I don't even know. But...
Yeah, these were like regular horses.
Right.
The ones on Canto Bight had like big horns and
whatever
stuff.
Those things are called. But yeah, it was an interesting approach. It's like, interesting choice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I thought it was interesting too.
Let's see, but yeah, at one point, when Ben and Rey, when they're fighting Palpatine, Rey hears all the voices of the Jedi who had come before, and it was really cool. They had.
Wait, Jack, you missed out a big section.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. What was that?
Jack, you missed out a big section.
Right. Which was that? That
was the bit where Rey goes to the island to see Luke.
Oh yes, of course. She goes, of course, she goes back to Octo, I believe is the name of the planet or the.
Octo, yeah.
But yeah, she goes back.
I gotta ask you guys this: how did it feel to see Luke's old X-wing?
It was cool.
That was awesome.
Great.
That was when he like looks at the. Okay, so she goes back to the island.
Mm-hmm.
And she's kind of pissed off. Let's see if how much I can remember, guys. So she's kind of doing what Luke was doing. She's kind of like running away because she's already seen that vision of herself on the Death Star in the Emperor's throne room, of which I presume is what Empress Rey Palpatine looked like.
What she would have been. But yeah, she went to exile herself the same way Luke tried to do.
Is Luke, yeah. Which was, and then of course Luke pops up after she throws the lightsaber into the burning wreckage of the TIE fighter, and then of course Luke comes out and he's like, "I was wrong about the Last Jedi. I was wrong about that movie," and that kind of gets, and he pep talks her into going to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of I felt like there was so many nods to kind of just pissing Rian Johnson off in this movie. One being the fact that he catches Luke's Force Ghost, catches the lightsaber, and is like, "Hey, that's a Jedi's sacred weapon. It shouldn't be mistreated or whatever." I
mean, you could look at it either way. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I think they were going to get there regardless. So.
Right.
They had to.
Yeah, so I mean that was the whole plan. It's like, okay, yeah, he fell, then he comes back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice little nod to Empire Strikes Back as well. How he like raised the ship out of the water, sort of the same way Yoda did.
and he gives that little nod to the almost like he gives that look like a little smirk, like, you know, look what I can do this now or whatever. He's just like, you know, when he's raising the ship, you know, and he's got his hand out and he kind of gives that look of like, it's like a little smirk, like he's really happy with himself. It's like something Yoda would have done.
It's like it took me till I was dead, but I figured it out.
I figured it out, guys. Yep. Check it out.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, you're totally right, John. I completely skipped that whole section, which was a really great scene. I really enjoyed that. But yes, skipping ahead back to where we were, and you know, with Rey hearing all like the voices of the Jedi, they got everybody to come back. They got, you know, you heard Qui-Gon, you heard young and old Obi-Wan, you heard Mace Windu, you heard Ahsoka Tano. You heard whatever the characters were from Rebels, and you heard Luke and just all these other Jedi, which was really cool to have those cameos coming back. I thought was really cool. It would have been cool if we could see them, but I mean.
Now I hear say the director's cut that like Anakin, Ewan, Hayden Christensen, Ewan, Samuel L. Jackson, they'd all filmed.
Oh man, I wish
for it.
I really wish Samuel L. Jackson pulled the snakes on the plane in this one.
I can't believe all these mother effing Star Destroyers.
That was what I was hoping for. It'd be, I've had it with these mother effing Sith Lords in this mother effing galaxy. That would have been awesome. That would have made this the best movie ever.
True, that would have never happened. But
I mean, they were allowed one F-bomb, right, as a PG-13, so he could have come up and said, "Rise, motherfucker," and just been like his usual.
That would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been good.
But yeah, so but I mean, but we finally saw for sure that Palpatine does die on this one. Like his body disintegrates. We saw it for sure. He's gone. Mm-hmm. we have that concern.
I need to ask you guys this.
Yeah.
Did it give you a callback to Avengers Endgame?
Oh, of like him disintegrating like that?
I haven't seen that yet.
The good guy both say what they are.
A little bit, yeah.
Thanos says, "I'm inevitable." Let me explain. Thanos says, "I am inevitable." Tony Stark says, "And I am Iron Man." Here, Palpatine says, "I am all the Sith," and Rey says, "And I am all the Jedi."
Good pull. Yeah, that makes sense. I can see the connection there. Sure, very very similar. Two very similar types of movies where they're both wrapping up their respective stories.
Yep.
So that makes sense, sure. But yeah, it was very similar to that. And Rey ended up, you know, getting killed during that process, but Ben gave his life to bring her back to life, which was really cool. And a lot of people had sort of a problem with the kiss that they shared at the end of it. I didn't really. I mean, in the
it didn't bother me.
I mean, yeah, in the context of that scene, after all they had been through at that point, I got it. But like, I didn't expect them to end up together, which they didn't. So it's, you know, because I mean, look, even if he turned to the light side, you know, he still would have been like thrown in jail or executed for war crimes.
I mean, what was he going to do if he hadn't have died? He wouldn't have like gone back to like the rebels with her and been like, "Oh yeah, here's Kylo. Oh, he's a good guy now."
You still killed billions of people. Like, you've got to pay for it.
Didn't you slaughter my entire village?
Gotta find somewhere to hide.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the same reason why, like, you knew Anakin wasn't going to survive. It's like, come on, like.
From what I got from it, I feel that because there's a scene earlier in the movie where she says, or he says to her, "Why didn't you take my hand?" Or, "You were going to take my hand," and she says, "I would have taken Ben Solo's hand."
Yeah.
And I feel like she was like almost sympathizing with him at that point. Like she really wanted to bring him back from the dark side. And the moment when Harrison Ford is talking to him, saying, and he eventually throws his lightsaber into the ocean. I feel that was the point where it was almost like a throwback to A New Hope, where Obi-Wan is saying that, sorry, not A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, when he's telling Luke, and he's like, once Anakin turned to Darth Vader, the person I knew as Anakin was destroyed.
Right.
It almost felt to me like Kylo Ren at that point was destroyed.
Yeah.
And he had destroyed Kylo Ren, and now he was Ben Kenobi, and he didn't have the dark force or the dark side. And she was, they were obviously, force connected, and he was about to die. So the fact that they had a kiss, it didn't really surprise me because I kind of see it coming, because there was obviously
a lot of tension between them.
Yeah, not so much even attraction, but you could tell that she loved him, and whether that was because she loved him because it was Leia and Han Solo's son, or whether she loved him because she brought him back to the dark side, or whether she just felt sorry for him.
There was something poetic about it. It's like, you had the grandson of Anakin Skywalker and the granddaughter of Palpatine, like these two families who've had all this, this impact on the galaxy. It's like there was something kind of beautifully poetic about it, and obviously there are a million people out there who were like shipping those two very hard. So, I mean, it didn't bother me, but it's like,
why in the movie didn't they give them more time to enjoy each other?
Well, I mean, look, you knew they weren't going to have like the happy ending, especially like, I didn't expect Ben Solo to survive this one. I really didn't, and which he
should
didn't. Like, it's like, even if they did, like, what was he gonna do? Like, the Resistance would have arrested him immediately. You know what I mean? Unless they ran off somewhere.
Ray could have stuck up for him.
Yeah, but like, come on, Ray
could have said to all the Resistance members, "But I love him."
Yeah. Oh, they're like, that makes it okay then. Like, no, that wouldn't have worked.
I feel like his time
now
is kind of passed.
Get Forever Alone means.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird. I mean, I'm moving on to the next scene here at this point, and I've kind of skipped a few scenes, so I'll discuss that when it happens.
I actually just discovered that in that battle, my favorite Star Wars character actually cameos as one of the guys who commands the guns of the Millennium Falcon.
Who's that?
Oh yeah, freaking
Wedge Antilles.
Wedge.
Yeah, they did show. They did bring back Dennis Lawson as Wedge Antilles, who is also Ewan McGregor's uncle, by the way.
That makes me so happy.
So that was really cool.
You
to see
say Boba
back.
Fett, I say Wedge Antilles.
That was a great scene. That was one of the best scenes in the movie for me. The way that
they brought
Poe was like, there's too many of them. Well, no, it was the fact that it was the scene that was happening kind of just before this scene.
Oh yeah.
With Rey and Ben, and Poe is like kind of in despair, and he's like, "Man, there's too many of them.
Yeah, all
We're
hope
not going
was
to
lost at that
win. There's
point.
too many of them." And then
that was a good callback.
And then you hear Lando. You hear Lando, and then you see all those ships, and I tell you, man, that gave me goosebumps. I was almost crying at that point. I was like, because then the music's cued right in at that moment, and you see all those ships, and then you see Lando and Chewie and the Falcon, and Lando gives that signature laugh, the laugh he does, and it was just like, oh man. I thought that was a great. J.J. Abrams is amazing at bringing out those moments that just give you the chills.
It was great, but I was almost expecting someone to say, "Where were you guys during the last two movies?"
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
I don't know. Maybe they just needed the suaveness of Lando to kind of
get them. Lando got the word out.
Get the word out. They're like, man, no one says no to Lando.
Right? He's too seductive. He's too cool.
He's way too seductive.
Yeah. He's too cool. Yeah.
Like, come on, help fight the Empire. I'll get you laid.
Yep.
It was great. Like the battle was just great with against the Star Destroyers. I liked how they all had their own super lasers. Like they miniaturized the Death Star technology, and like that gave it like higher stakes, I thought.
Right.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's like they upgraded the technology to be more efficient that way.
I tell you, man, those Star Destroyers and that whole design of the sort of the throwback to the Imperial, and you got this Sith army, and it was just like, it's so much darker than the first. Because the First Order, to be honest, by the end of The Last Jedi, were not very. I just didn't think they were threatening. They just seemed like a bunch of pansies.
Right.
One thing we didn't mention, which I'm going to chuck in really quickly, is General Hux.
Yes, that was a great twist.
I didn't like him at all in The Last Jedi. I thought he wasn't scary. He was just kind of annoying. And then the fact that he had that twist, and there was that other guy that superseded him, which was way more intimidating.
Yeah.
It just kind of made sense.
Yeah, I mean, his twist was really entertaining. I thought for a second that particular general was like a Sith, because like the way he talked to Palpatine is like, just as I served you in the last war, I served you now. So I thought we were going to get more of a backstory to him, but that didn't really pay off.
I think he was just another guy in the
right. He was just an
Imperial army, just a general,
just another officer, you know.
And I presume that harps back to the fact that these were people who were,
sure,
generals and whatnot because the whole Imperial army was not destroyed.
Yeah, you had other high-ranking officers, who probably survived and whatnot. So
and I guess they all
there
started,
have to be remnants of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they all gathered at Exegol to start building this sort of super army.
Right.
Which is I really like that idea.
Yeah. And but I mean, yeah, just the whole climax of the movie was really great. I didn't even mention sort of Finn's subplot as well, where it's like it was heavily implied that he was Force sensitive as well, which was good, because like even in The Force Awakens, he had a lot of time using a lightsaber, and he ended up being pretty good at it. Especially like I remember seeing those posters and thinking, oh well, this guy's going to be a Jedi too, and which they didn't end up going that way. But by the time they got to this movie, they kind of suggested that maybe one day he might become a Jedi. You know what I mean?
Yes. That was the secret he was trying to tell Rey for the entire movie that never got to. For what I presume.
For sure.
I presume that's what he was trying to tell her. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see him, because again, rumor has it that there is going to be another set of movies with Rey and Finn and Poe. So whether we're going to see them again, I would presume we are.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think they're going to do 10, 11, and 12 one day?
I don't know if it'll be 10, 11, and 12 per se, but I think it would probably be another trilogy with Rey and Poe and Finn doing something. Who they would be fighting or who they would be against, I don't know.
So I remember Daisy Ridley saying that she was kind of done with the character after these 3 movies, but maybe, who knows?
Oh, Jack, everyone has a price.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Even Harrison.
Disney themselves said there's going to be no more trilogies after this.
Who said that?
Disney themselves.
Oh, but they have contradicted themselves and said they might be doing. They'll be doing more.
Disney is going to be making Star Wars stuff until the end of time. Like.
Yeah.
They're going to get...
yeah, that's true.
You know what would actually be kind of cool, which I don't know if it'll happen or if it would even be cool, but just kind of an idea would be, say, if, Rey is training more Jedis, or that story kind of continues on. Maybe they're fighting another set of people, like the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
Which, of course, there was a Jedi versus Mandalorian war that happened before Episode 1, supposedly, in the extended universe.
Sure.
So whether... Or the Mandalorian story, they actually had a battle with the Jedis, and I can't remember if it's mentioned in the show, but that would be another cool thing if they wanted to get away from, like, the Sith.
Yeah, or if there was another species out there that wanted to take over and whatnot, or who knows? Yeah, no, there's
one thing is for sure though: these movies will keep coming, and they will keep making movies, and they will keep making TV shows, because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
There's just too much money at stake.
Yep.
The ending was really cool. How Rey went to Tatooine, to the Lars moisture farm. Sort of had a few callbacks to that, and just seeing it all sort of weathered over, and seeing her slide down that hill of sand, kind of like she did in The Force Awakens, was really nice. And she ended up burying Luke and Leia's lightsaber there, and there was, introducing herself as Rey Skywalker and seeing the ghosts of Luke and Leia there. I thought that was a really nice ending.
I liked it.
And just kind of copying that iconic shot of her staring into the sunset.
I mean, at this point, I'd actually seen online, because I couldn't get away from any of the spoilers, even though I saw it opening night. But the week before, 2 weeks before, there was a script leak, and somebody had said that this is the end. How she, and there was a whole thing about how she, she thinks she's a Skywalker, and how it's really dumb and really stupid. I actually thought it was a good call, because, I mean, she's kind of been adopted. You don't know how long she spent with Leia during The Last Jedi and this movie. So at least a year has passed. So she's looking up to Leia as kind of a mother figure. Her mother's nowhere to be, right? And the fact is that,
she's carrying on the name.
She's not going to say, what's your last name? Palpatine.
Right,
it would be like if you were Hitler's daughter. You're not going to be like, granddaughter. Oh, what's your last name? Oh, Hitler.
Oh, it's Bin Laden.
You really don't want people finding out you're related to the bad guy.
Exactly.
No. So the fact that was kind of, and it was, the only thing that was sad for me was you got Leia and Luke kind of there in the sort of afterlife of the, the Force, and then you've got to think, well, Han Solo is dead, and there's no afterlife for him, and he's dead, and they're like kind of chilling in the Force, in this.
He's not a Jedi, so
so it's kind of sad that obviously they wouldn't have put Han Solo there because that would have been stupid, but it's kind of sad that he's kind of like just on his own, or whatever. But obviously they couldn't have put him there because he's not a Jedi or Force sensitive. But it was kind of a little bit sad. I was like, man, that kind of sucks for him. Wow.
Yeah, who knows what the rules are when it comes to that? They could always change that if they needed to.
Right. I mean, I don't know what happened to Ben Solo. I guess he wasn't a Jedi, was he? So Siths don't have.
He did fade out at the end, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he came back as a Force ghost, but he just wasn't there.
I mean, they could. I mean, why not? But yeah, but that was the end of the movie, and. You know what? I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face. Like, even back when Disney bought Star Wars from George Lucas, even before that, like, I just, I never had this expectation that we were going to get all these movies and everything else. Like, I just assumed that we were going to have the 6 movies and whatever series were out there, and I was totally fine with it. So all this stuff that came out there, I didn't have this like big expectation going into it, or this like almost this sense of entitlement that we need to do this. And it's just like, wow, this is awesome. Like, this is a great bonus.
Right.
Because like
it really was.
Because like for me, like I felt like, okay, we had the 6 movies, but they told that story. I'm good with that. Not that I was done with Star Wars necessarily, but I'm like, yeah, this is all just a big bonus, and I'm just psyched that there are more Star Wars content that's coming down, and I'm sure there will.
And that is there's so much content. I mean, it's great.
There's a lot. There's a lot of stories to tell in that universe.
And Lucas was so adamant. I remember reading an interview of him, and him saying, and this is obviously several years before he sold it to Disney, but he said, "No one will make another Star Wars movie. I will not be making 7, 8, and 9."
Right.
If any of my family who inherit my estate try to make a Star Wars movie, they'll be written out of the estate. They won't receive a penny. He was adamant that these movies were never going to get made. And then when he sold it to Disney, I remember seeing it on Facebook one night and thinking, man, that happened really quickly. What the heck? And then immediately I thought, yes, we're going to get more Star Wars, because Disney aren't going to buy something for $4.5-5 billion if they're not going to, start making movies. And then
they're going to make that money back with interest.
By the end of the night, I was thinking, because I was up all night probably thinking about it. I was like, because at that point, Star Wars had kind of, I wouldn't say died, it was obviously dead, but it was obviously, something that maybe people were not thinking about as much, because, there hadn't been a movie since 2005, 2005. Was no hope of us getting another movie. Okay, we had the Clone Wars, cartoon, but it was like, wow, there are going to be more Star Wars movies, and we could actually see a Star Wars theme park at Disney.
Yeah.
And
lo and behold, it happened.
Lo and behold, you could tell what Disney kind of had. They were playing the long game. They were playing the Palpatine game. They were. So it was. I mean, it's awesome because now it's not just the 6 movies that we originally got. Or the original. I mean, I remember it being the original 3 movies. I'm sure you do as well, Jack.
Yeah.
And thinking we were never going to get any other movies. Sorry, Marko. I don't know how old you are. You might be.
I'm 25, John.
Yeah,
okay.
we've got 10 years on young Marko here, so it's okay.
So I remember being a kid and being like, oh, we're never going to see another Star Wars movie, and I just wore those VHSs out to the point where you couldn't even watch the VHSs anymore.
Yeah.
And the fact that, we got the prequels, but the prequels were kind of like a little bit bittersweet because we kind of knew what was going to happen, and we knew we were going to only have 3 movies. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, oh my God, there's just so much content that can be coming out. And I know a lot of people have been giving Disney a lot of stick about, if you go online, there'll be people just going on and on about how they hate all what Disney have done and Disney have ruined it. I don't think Disney have really, I don't see how Disney have ruined it for anybody.
No.
Because those movies, if you want to watch those movies,
they're always going to be there.
In their original, they're always going to be there. They're not changing those movies. Yeah. And we're just getting more content and more.
John, knock on wood.
They could change them, or we don't know. No, I honestly think that, and I'm fine with the Lucas special cuts. I know people go, oh, we've got to have the original cut, the original version, and I'm fine with all the cuts he's made. Do I like them better? Not really. Do I like them less? Not really. I think they're fine. The cuts, the extended cuts of the original trilogy, they don't really add anything, but it's just kind of like, and in some way it blends them all a little bit better together. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen them on Blu-ray, but if you watch the first 6 movies on Blu-ray, they kind of blend together a little bit more with some of the little extended bits he's done. But going back to what I was saying, the fact that we're going to have so much more Star Wars content, and the Star Wars theme park, and the Star Wars hotel that's coming out, and
it wouldn't shock me if they do 10, 11, and 12 one day. It might not be for a few years, but, it wouldn't surprise me if one day they get to
No, and it wouldn't surprise me.
You know what I'd like to see?
What's that?
A midquel trilogy.
Yeah, in between 6 and 7?
Midquel. Yeah, based on... Well, actually between episodes 4 and 5.
Like...
like in between... I'm talking about Rogue Squadron.
Oh, okay.
That'd be really interesting.
They could do that.
Jack, I don't think you've played that. Jonathan, have you ever played the Rogue Squadron video game?
I have.
Yeah. Those are the best Star Wars games ever.
Yeah.
They're gonna make a movie based on it.
They're really good.
You never know. Yeah. Anything's possible. Like with what they did with Rogue One and Solo and all the other, the other spin-off projects they're doing on Disney Plus as well. You never know. I mean, anything is possible, really.
And I forgot, they have to use the Rogue Squadron theme song in the movie somehow.
What's the Rogue Squadron theme song? Never mind. I'll Google it.
I'm gonna go look that up.
Apparently, there's a theme song. All right. Well, that's something I didn't know that I know now.
I think the first thing, or the next set of movies, and again, I don't know. Obviously, we got the only thing that's been for sure greenlit thus far has obviously been season 2 of The Mandalorian, which we know is coming, and the Kenobi show.
I can only hope that we're going to get an official release of the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Man, that would be crazy.
I don't think
as long as that exists, you cannot complain about these movies because there's nothing that's going to be worse than that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The Last Jedi was close for me.
Sounds a creative review on it.
I remember saying in a thing on Facebook, I was like, The Last Jedi is my least favorite Star Wars movie, and I'm counting the holiday special, and I'm counting the two Ewok movies.
That's a little strong. That's a little strong there. All right. So, anyways, I definitely give this movie a thumbs up. It was cool seeing a lot of the cast come back. It was great seeing Ian McDiarmid come back to reprise Palpatine.
He's so evil. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's so evil.
He is the Emperor.
Yeah, I mean he's been with them since Return of the Jedi, and yeah, he's really just owned this role. And even Anthony Daniels as 3PO was great. Which, by the way, this makes.
I think Anthony Daniels didn't like science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll tell you this about Anthony Daniels: he's the only actor who has appeared in all 9 of the movies.
Yes, he has.
Man, that's true. And he was, or was he? I know his character was in Rogue One. Was he in Rogue One?
I think so. Yeah, I think they did have a little
He was in Rogue
cameo
One.
of R2 and 3PO.
Only as a cameo.
They did not. Yeah.
He maybe had like.
Which was cool.
I think he might have had like one line, but like he was there.
He did. Yeah, he did. He had one line, and he was like saying something about where they going or what are they? You know, they were on Yavin 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the jungle place, the base they had there.
And that's crazy when you think of he's been in all those movies. He seems like a trooper as well. He's always at the conventions. He seems to embrace the fans.
Oh, for sure.
Fans love it.
Absolutely.
And same with Ian McDruid. He seems like he's always at the conventions.
Absolutely, and they even had yeah, like I said, they had a lot of older actors come back, like Dennis Lawson as Wedge Antilles. They had Warwick Davis come back as Wicket.
Oh yes. Was that Warwick? Was he his?
That was Warwick Davis. Yeah.
Man, he was the Ewok at the end of the new one.
Yeah.
Skywalker?
Yeah, that was.
I did not know that.
Because he's been in so many.
Yeah, I think that was the same character, Wicket, the Ewok from there. I think like he had his kid there, or something,
Oh man, because he was, of course, in Solo.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was
the smugglers, and I think Kevin Smith had a cameo in there somewhere. I forget. He was like one of the people on Kijimi.
Okay.
And you had a couple people, like I think Chris Terrio, the screenwriter, briefly appeared in. He was the son of Admiral Akbar.
Oh,
so that was Chris
okay.
Terrio, the writer.
Wow, that was cool bringing Akbar back, because that was another thing that pissed a lot of people off with The Last Jedi, was Akbar didn't get a good sending out. So they were obviously. I don't know if you guys have been on the new ride yet, Rise of the Resistance.
Not yet. No, I want to.
He features in that.
Really?
Whoa.
Akbar's son.
Well, there you go.
And that ride is fantastic.
Nice.
It's beyond anything I've ever seen.
But yeah, I think Lin-Manuel Miranda was also in that as well. He cameoed as like one of the Resistance troopers, which is interesting. I imagine there were probably a lot of people who like cameoed as stormtroopers and whatnot. Like in Force Awakens, you had Daniel Craig in there.
Yeah.
and I think they made his number like they put like 007 in there somewhere, that's a lot of fun.
That's funny. I guess they were filming James Bond at the same time in the same studio.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
in England.
Yeah, and they had like again a lot of those actors come back as like the and do at least voiceover parts as the Jedi of old, and
that was
cool. Great.
What did you guys think of Charlie's character, the character that was played by Charlie from Lost?
Was that the girl stormtrooper?
I don't know.
Or no, that was the guy. Snap Wesley.
He was Mary, or was he Pippin? Mary or Pippin in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
He was Mary from Lord of the Rings. Dominic Monaghan.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it was cool seeing him in there. I mean, look, obviously he's worked with JJ before, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other guy, right, from Heroes, it was back it was in the Force Awakens.
Yeah, a bigger guy. He played a character named Snap Wexley. Greg Grunberg, I think was his name. The actor.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg Grunberg, and like I said, they brought back Billy Lord, and I think I think they had Ed Sheeran.
Oh, that's a big mistake.
Yeah, they had
big mistake.
Ed Sheeran and Danny Harrison, the son of George Harrison, they all cameoed as stormtroopers, so you wouldn't have seen their faces.
Man, could you imagine being just like a celebrity who just got in on the action on that?
I heard a rumor, and John, I don't know if you heard of this at all, but I heard a rumor that in Force Awakens they actually had Prince William and Prince Harry.
I heard that as well.
I don't know if there's any truth to that.
I didn't hear about it.
Yeah, whether that's true, I don't know. But I did know they were down on the set when it was, because they're filmed in London.
Right.
Well, a lot of it was filmed in London, not all of it, obviously.
Probably a lot at Pinewood Studios in London.
Pinewoods, right, where they filmed the first movies, and of course, if you're a prince and you can go anywhere you want, you're going to go down and be like, hey, what's going on in here?
Of course, they could make that happen.
Yeah,
So.
Good old Johnny here could make that happen, or so.
Right.
But if you're a prince, you kind of get away with anything. So I would do the same thing.
Yeah, I would think so. So there you go, guys. That was it. I think it all got a thumbs up from us. I think hopefully it turned around a lot of the critics of Last Jedi, like it did with you, John. But maybe it did, maybe it didn't.
I feel that it's kind of I've seen and I've spoken to not a lot. I don't know a lot of people. I hardly know anyone. But I've spoken to a few people, and everyone that seems to hate The Last Jedi, other than you, Jack, everyone that seems to hate The Last Jedi really likes this movie, and everyone that seems to love The Last Jedi really hates this movie.
Oh, that's weird. Huh.
That's odd.
Yeah.
And I think it has something to do with the fact that, I guess, the choices that they made, the choices that bothered me in The Last Jedi, I think in this movie, they kind of rectified that.
Gotcha.
Whereas a lot of...
Because, that was my attitude going into The Last Jedi. It's like, wow, this is, really unpredictable, and I'm like, I'm not worried about it, because they still have one other movie to do. Of course they're gonna turn around. So I kind of knew that was gonna happen. So that at least that was my attitude going into it.
And I feel like they did a 180 straight away in that movie. I mean, they kind of explained who Snoke was.
Right.
They brought Palpatine back, all within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah. And I was fine with it. It all made sense to me.
In fact, I know a lot of people were, it was one of the pointers. It didn't really bother me because there was so many other things with the movie that bothered me with The Last Jedi. That when they use Admiral Holdo,
yeah.
Holdo, she uses light speed as a weapon. Like, she weaponizes it. She kamikazes herself with the Star Destroyer.
I loved that scene, by the way. That was awesome.
That scene looks great, but so many people were like, "Oh man, that's such crap." If they could do this, why didn't they start doing it? And I didn't catch it the first time I saw it, but the second time I saw the movie, I believe it is Finn that says we might have to pull an Admiral Holdo here at the end of the battle at the end, and Charlie from Lost says that's like a 1 in a million shot. So they're kind of almost saying, okay, well, it happened in The Last Jedi, but it's like so unlikely it would ever happen again. So it's not like, basically just trying to rectify.
Exactly, just trying to get people to shut up about it. It's like, all right, nerds.
Right, yeah. Stop complaining. But again, it didn't bother me too much in that. My main problems with The Last Jedi were the big choices that were made. But when we found out that Palpatine was back and that he created Snoke, I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, I kind of knew it was going to be something like that. So
now, do you think that Snoke was like? Because it seemed like at the beginning of the movie that he was somewhat. It was some sort of sick science experiment that he was like trying to clone Snoke, or made Snoke a clone.
Maybe. Yeah, it was something like that.
Because they were all in those test tubes, and there was those scientists around, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I dug it.
It's kind of cool. I like that.
I was okay with it. But that's it, man. I think we've talked this movie to death. I'm good with it. It seemed like you guys all liked it.
Yep.
Those of you listening, feel free to leave some comments, subscribe, and let us know what you thought about the Rise of Skywalker. Can't guarantee we're going to listen to it, but hey, leave a comment. I'm just being honest about it. But we appreciate you guys listening. Marko, do you have anything to plug? Where can people find you on social media?
They can just type in my name on Facebook. They can also type in Particle Effect's name, and they'll find us there too.
Yeah, that's Particle Effect, your old band. I know you're always putting out stuff on YouTube, and you've got some albums on iTunes and whatnot. So
got another one coming out soon.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, John, I don't know if you have anything you can plug right now. I know you teach guitar here in the Winter Garden area, and I know you're setting up your home studio.
Working on music slowly, but I have the kid slows me down.
Of course.
He's my entire day. So once he's gone to bed, I try and get on to be productive, but most of the time I just vegetate on a couch and stare at the ceiling.
Very cool.
And that's it.
I really appreciate both of you guys, coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you, Jack.
As always, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic, on Instagram and Twitter at jackxconnor. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, like this podcast. Go back and listen to all the other episodes that I've done, and you'll let me know if you like them as well. Definitely share it, tell a friend. If you don't like it, tell an enemy, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what else to tell you. Feel free to check out all my various bands and whatnot, and I know John and I are working on my next record, so that's I'll let you guys know when that comes out. So for Marko, for Jonathan, I'm Jack Connor. Thank you for listening to the Phoenix Report. May the Force be with you.